The spring 2022 anime season is upon us, and I have 8 new shows I'd like to talk about. 4 sequels, 4 brand spanking new series. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. First show I want to talk about is Tiger and Bunny Season 2, Part 1. So let's have a little backstory on this. So Tiger and Bunny first came out 11 years ago, back in 2011, and we're finally getting a second season about 2 years after it was announced, which granted we were told it would be 2 years later, so it's not like a surprise, but we've been waiting a long time for this. I've personally been waiting 8 years because I watched it in 2014. I actually rewatched the show a year ago to get it back fresh in my memory, and it's still held up, still a great superhero show that I highly recommend. But we're only getting half of the second season here. The second season is confirmed to be a total of 25 episodes, and we're getting 13 now, 12 at some point in the future. I wish we knew when, because the other interesting thing here is this is all being dropped, the first 13 episodes at once, on Netflix on April 8th, which is about a week from now, so you know what I'm going to be doing that Friday. So the first season had nothing to do with Netflix. You can watch it on Netflix, but it wasn't released that way. It was done weekly. So this is a big change. And Netflix isn't always consistent with when they do part 2s. Sometimes they can happen a few months later. Sometimes it could be a few years later. So I am worried that part 2 might not come out for a while. I would really like it to be available before the end of the year, but we'll just have to wait and see. Regardless, I am over the moon that this is finally getting a continuation after so long. Yes, we did have the movie in 2014, 2015, so there was something, but there needed to be more. I really want to see what they do with Lunatic and where they take his character, because they did some interesting stuff with him in the movie. So I'm really curious how that gets handled. I'm curious if they go back to exploring Ouroboros and more of that group, or if they just kind of leave that behind and focus on new enemies. And most importantly, the question that needs to be answered: will Rock Bison finally get a spotlight episode? Because he's the one hero who didn't. Even Fire Emblem got all that backstory in the movie. So come on, Rock Bison. I know you can do it. You can do it, buddy. I do kind of wonder, if you guys remember, back around, I think 2017, 2018, there was a poll, an NHK poll in Japan, just like, what's your favorite anime? What's the best anime of all time, right? And Tiger and Bunny got number 1, which I remember surprised a lot of people. And the other thing is because they allowed, split entries and stuff, so second seasons and movies could also rank on there. I think the first movie, which is a recap basically, and the second movie that came out in 2014, those were in the top 5 as well, with Tiger and Bunny the show at number 1. I do have to wonder if that's why we're actually getting another season. Would not surprise me, but I do wonder, is this really that popular in Japan, or was there just an effort to get it to win that poll? I don't know. Regardless of the reason, I'm happy. This show doesn't get enough love. It's great. It's fun. If you want an interesting take on a superhero story with the ads they have to wear, and they have to, promote their sponsors, and they have to do well for their company, and they have the whole TV aspect to it. There's a lot of interesting aspects to this. And it had a very, very interesting ongoing plot in the first season, so I hope we get something similar to that in the second season. And just the characters are a lot of fun too. I really like how Kotetsu and Barnaby specifically develop over the course of the first season, especially with regards to their dynamic and relationships. So really, really looking forward to this. Check out the show if you haven't. It has my full recommendation. And this is probably going to be my anime of the season. I would be surprised if it's not, but hey, we have a lot of originals that look really cool, so we'll see where those go. The next sequel I want to talk about is Kaguya-sama Love is War Season 3. And I'm looking forward to this. I liked the first 2 seasons of Kaguya. This could be more of the same, and I'd be fine with it. I did like that the second season delved into some more serious-ish arcs, especially the one with Ishigami and his backstory. So, I mean, if it has some of that here and there, but it's still mostly the same sort of gimmick, I guess you could say, that the rest of the show followed overall. Like, I'd be fine with that. If it does advance things, that's cool too, but I don't necessarily need it to in order to probably like this about the same as the other seasons. I don't love this to the same degree that I think the wider community does, but I still like it, and I'd be perfectly fine with more of the same. And likewise, that would apply with Komi Can't Communicate, which is getting its second season here. Again, if this is more of the same, more of what we got in the first season, I would be totally fine with that. If we do get some more developments, that's fine, but I liked Komi. I'd be fine with more of exactly what we got before. I don't have a lot to say on this or Kaguya, just more of the same is fine with me. If we get some new stuff, that's great too. I expect to like these about the same as the other seasons. And the last sequel I want to talk about is Rising of the Shield Hero Season 2, which was actually supposed to come out back in October. It got delayed a full 6 months, which is interesting, potentially worrisome, but you would think that any production issues they would have been able to resolve. The other interesting thing here, if you remember, Shield Hero already has a third season confirmed. Back when this got announced, I think in like August or so of 2019, they announced the third season at the same time, which I can only think of one other time that happened, and it just happened with Classroom of the Elite, where it got 2 seasons announced at the same time. It's very weird to see that happen, but this is only going to be 13 episodes. And I had mixed feelings on the first season of Shield Hero. Like, by the time it ended, I liked it more. But in the beginning, and I think a lot of people had this issue, the show wasn't always the easiest to watch. A lot of the characters were just assholes, and eventually that gets phased out because the more assholey characters either get removed or they become less assholey. So hopefully that continues, and like I said, I think as the show went on, it got more enjoyable. I liked the plot threads that were getting set up and the stuff that happens in the later half of the show. So if it continues from that, I hope that I'll like it well enough. And I mean, I'm looking forward to more Raphtalia. She definitely kind of carried the show on her back, and I more or less expect her to do the same here. So hey, you know, at least there's more of that. She was a fan favorite character, so it's nice to see more of her. Not so much to see more of Philo, because I could definitely stand to not have to hear Philo say anything or do anything ever again, but you know, you get more of one good character, and I guess it's got to be counterbalanced with a really crappy character, or annoying character at least. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic for this, but we'll see what happens. And that's it for the sequels that I wanted to talk about. Let's move into the new shows. And of course, I got to start off with Spy Family, or Spy X Family, Spy Cross Family. You know how anime is with X's. Like, sometimes the X's are pronounced, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're crosses. I don't know. I'm just going to say Spy Family. I assume that's what it's supposed to be, but correct me if I'm wrong. This show has been hyped to hell and back. This, I think, is easily the most talked about upcoming new show. And I can't really blame people for feeling that way. If you read the synopsis and you look at the description and watch the PV, like, it sounds really interesting, and it sounds like it has a little bit of everything in it. So you have this family that's basically formed for convenience with this spy, this assassin, this child telepath, but none of them, other than the child, the telepath, the daughter, know everything that's going on, right? The spy does not realize the rest of the family is what it is. The same thing with the assassin, and that could create some interesting growth for the characters, but also just some funny moments as they try to hide their identities from each other. And clearly the goal here is for this family that's only formed because of the convenience it allows for the assassin and the spy in order to continue their work and have some sort of cover. Like, eventually they're going to grow into a real family. They're going to care about each other and value each other, and that's going to be cute. That's going to be fun. That's probably going to be the main way the show appeals to people, and I've got no problem with that. That would probably be a fun thing to watch. But it also looks like, based on the PV, there is going to be at least some level of action, some sort of overarching plot line. So if it has that too, like, I think this will appeal to a lot of people. If you want the more sort of like comedic slice of life stuff and like the heartwarming stuff, it'll have that in spades. But it'll also seemingly have some action to appeal to people who are more leaning towards that sort of genre and type of show. So I think this will be really popular. It is going to be split core, so we're going to get the second half in the fall, so at least around 24 episodes, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get more of this just because of how popular it is, how popular the source material is. And yeah, I'm not surprised this is as hype as it is, and I certainly hope it's able to live up to it. The next show I want to talk about is Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. This just looks and sounds adorable. So Shikimori, the main character, has a boyfriend, and she is very cute around that boyfriend, but also can get very overprotective and has what the show seems to describe as like a dark form where she does get really overprotective, but even then, it's cute. It's adorable. And this just looks like a really fun, colorful, bright, cute story, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's Dogo Kobo doing the animation, and you know, when they want to, they can make a show look amazing, and the PV looks really good. Hopefully that'll carry throughout the whole show and not just the PV and a few shots in the show where they took that from for the PV. But I'm looking forward to this. This looks fun. This looks really just fun and cute and adorable, and I don't know how else to describe it. I know that's not going to appeal to everyone. Not everyone likes this kind of show, but I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a cute thing to keep an eye on and see how it develops. I also think Shikimori herself has a lot of potential to basically be the community's collective best girl or waifu for the season. Just watch the PV and I think you'll understand that. The next one I want to talk about is Tomodachi Game, or Friends Game. I don't know what the official English title will be. I'm going to go with Tomodachi Game because I've seen that more so, and I think Friends Game is just like, well, you know, Tomodachi means friend. But if it ends up being Friends Game, then it's Friends Game. But for now, I feel like it's probably going to be Tomodachi Game as far as the official title. I don't know what to make of this one, so I started to see hype for this come about from like Squid Game coming out and people saying like, oh, this will be anime Squid Game or like anime Saw or some sort of, you know, survival death game. I don't know if it's really going to be a death game necessarily, and I'm just basing that on the PV. The PV it's interesting. It's not like gory or bloody or violent, but clearly like the characters are going to be trapped and they're going to have to go through a bunch of challenges and they're going to have to try to survive it. But I don't necessarily get the impression any of them are going to die or suffer too much, at least physically. I could be completely off base. I don't know what happens in the source material. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be too like dark or gory. But also the way the PV is shot just kind of, how do I describe it? It has like this edgy vibe to it, which isn't always a great sign with death games or survival games. Like, so I don't know what to make of it. I really hope it doesn't like devolve into just edgelord nonsense, because it's very easy for survival games to do that. They can either be amazing and be really thrilling and, you know, be something you're on the edge of your seat trying to watch, or they can just get really dumb. I don't want this to be dumb. I want this to be thrilling, and I hope that's what it is, but I don't know. And a lot of, maybe these reservations aren't fair to the show, but this is just how survival games or death games tend to be. It's like it's one or the other. You can't just have like an okay survival game show. It has to be either amazing or poopy. I don't want this to be poopy. I want it to be okay. So, or I want it to be great, but if it's okay, fine. That's okay too. So we'll see what happens. I'm cautious, not so much because of what this is presenting so far, but because of the subgenre it falls into. But hey, we'll find out. We'll find out if it's great or just kind of hyped up because of other ancillary media surrounding it. And the final show I want to talk about is actually the one among the new shows that I'm probably the most interested in, and that is Summertime Rendering. Now, this is going to be 25 episodes, so it's going to run continuously. It's not split core, so it won't be ending until like the end of September. And from what I understand, it's supposed to be a full adaptation. I don't know if that means these 25 episodes are going to be everything or they'll do more later, but I kind of hope it's the former, as long as it doesn't like rush things too much, because this sounds really cool. So this is a supernatural mystery kind of show with, you know, some characters getting murdered. One of the characters comes back as like a ghost, I guess, or at least through visions. And it's set on an island, so I could imagine there being like this claustrophobic nature to it all. But also, like, it just looks really well animated. There's a lot of nice summery ocean visuals in the PV. And I mean, for a show that's going to be airing at least partly in the summer, that's really fitting. And it just seems really, really intriguing through the premise and through the PV as well. Like, the PV has those more like atmospheric shots in it, but it also has those, you know, creeping kind of darkness moments to it as well. So I'm curious how it'll pan out. I'm curious how the mystery will go. And if this is a full adaptation, that's really good for a mystery, because it means you're not going to have, you know, like this crazy cliffhanger and then no more show for a while. You know, a continuous 25 episode run that covers everything should go really well towards that sort of genre. So really looking forward to this. Hopefully it pans out and it ends up being satisfying. And yeah, that about does it. Those are the 8 shows I have the most interest in currently. If there's any show that I missed out on or failed to mention, feel free to leave that below. And if you have any thoughts on the shows I discussed here, leave that in the comments as well. That's going to about do it. Take care, everyone. I'll see you next time.